Welcome to the Experience Oldsmar with the Mayor podcast. I'm your host, Mayor Dan Saracki, broadcasting from top of the bay in beautiful downtown Oldsmar, right here in our old bank building. Right here, live in beautiful downtown Oldsmar. With over 20 years of public service, my guest today is Pinellas County Commissioner René Flowers. Thank you so much, René, for being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I understand you are a Pinellas County native.
Yes, born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida. So I don't mind telling my age. I celebrated 59 years this year. So I am 59 years old in a place that I love and have seen grow and expand, and look forward to maybe another 50 plus years.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
You look wonderful today. I am just really excited that you've joined the city today and come here on my podcast. I don't know how to thank you so much. So how long ago did you and your family come to live in Florida?
Well, actually, my mother moved here when she was a little girl. My family's originally from Colquitt County, which is in Georgia. So that's Moultrie, Albany State University area.
Okay.
My grandmother was the second oldest of 18, and my mom is an only child. My grandfather was serving in the military, in the Navy, and jobs were happening here in the late 1930s. The construction boom, the railroad being built from here going down to South Florida, and it was just a place that individuals were migrating to for work. And so my grandmother, of course, moved here with my mom, and then my father's originally from Gainesville, and he moved here, of course, with his father. And so they've been here since the late 1930s. And of course, I have sisters and brothers. It's a total of 12 of us. So we've been here for quite some time.
So they moved right to St. Petersburg.
Yes.
I can't even imagine what it looked like back then.
Yeah, moved into Jordan Park, which was a housing complex that was being built at the time by Mr. Jordan. As a matter of fact, we just cut the ribbon on the Jordan Legacy apartments. And, you know, from the stories that were told to me by my great aunts and my grandmother, the Jordan Park complex at that time, you know, it was fabulous. It had indoor plumbing, indoor bathrooms, which was something that a lot of people didn't have, but we just take it for granted now. And so it was a place where African Americans could move to and have a sense of community and camaraderie, and also be able to find employment in a number of trades. So,
thank you so much for sharing. How was the transportation back then? Like the roads, were they dirt or were they paved yet?
No, they were paved roads, but there still was some horse and buggy. Mr. James Donaldson was the African American that moved here with Mr. DeMons and others. So he also was a farmer, but he shoed horses and whatnot. So it was a combination, but certainly, public transportation was taking the bus. And I remember those buses, they didn't have AC. When I grew up, we would take bus 7 or 8 from Jordan Park and take it to either Central Plaza or to downtown, which is where Webb City grocery store was. Get off there, grocery shop, get on the bus and come back, or my dad would pick us up if he got off work on time. So it was paved roads and things of that nature. I just remember a very strong cultural time, growing up in a community with doctors and lawyers and architects and masonry workers. It was just an awesome experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a great little story. So let's talk a little bit about your educational background. It's amazing. What colleges did you attend?
Well, I did graduate from Pinellas County Schools, Dixie Hollins High School, which is now called Hollins High. I attended Howard University. I was recruited by attorney Fred G. Menace initially. He went there. He was one of the big civil rights attorneys back in the day. So I was recruited by him and, had to pull together grants, Pell Grant, and student loans in order to go to the school. It was quite expensive, located in Washington, D.C., but so rich in heritage. And after my first year, I didn't realize that when they said that you had to enter a lottery for housing, that you actually entered a lottery for housing. Your freshman year, you're required to stay in the dorm. So I stayed in Baldwin Hall. right off of Georgia Avenue. I did not get housing. My name was not pulled for housing. So my parents came up, looked around, and even back then it was quite expensive to live in the city. And then also just concerned about safety with me having to either catch the public bus or walk back to the campus, and some classes were in the evening. So I wasn't able to continue my education there. Watson Haynes, who married my sister, knew someone at Tallahassee Community College. That someone ended up being Bill Law, who ended up being the president of St. Pete College here. But he knew him. I had already missed deadlines to apply for colleges, and he let me in. So my mom called someone she knew. We got a paper. We found an apartment. Moved me up. I started Tallahassee Community College. I graduated with an Associate of Arts degree from Tallahassee Community College, went on to Ecker College, received my Bachelor of Arts in Organizational Studies. I've received my Master's in Public Administration from Capella University, and currently I'm a doctoral student at Capella University.
That is wonderful. That's fantastic. So what degrees have you earned?
I have an Associate of Arts degree, a Bachelor's degree, a Master's degree, and I am hopeful to walk across that stage with my doctorate next August.
Wonderful. So you're still in school. Is that like nighttime or?
Well, your doctoral degree at the phase that I'm in, which is really putting all of your research and your data together, it's kind of like on your own. So I have a mentor, and we communicate every week or whenever I need to. But right now, it's just taking all of the research and the data that I've been able to compile. It's a qualitative study that I'm doing for my research using lived experiences. And the theme is, or the thesis is, African American women in county government systems and leadership roles. And so just pulling all of that together. So you've got to be disciplined, because you've got to do that work every day. You got to be doing something on it. And so it gets a little hard sometimes, but it could be 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I'm up on my laptop because I want to get it done.
That's wonderful. Thank you for so much for sharing all that. That's a great story. You have served with quite a few community, social, and civic organizations. Are you currently serving at any boards?
Oh, certainly. I serve on the R Club and Louise Graham board. Our club takes care of young children that are entering preschool, and certainly after school care, and then for elementary and middle school. The Louise Graham Regeneration Station started by a young woman who wanted to make sure that persons that had learning disabilities, that they had a place to go where they weren't just hanging out all day, but they were learning skills and trades and be able to live on their own with some assistance. And so it's just wonderful. The Louise Graham Center now does a lot of the paper shredding and things of that nature. That's how they earn additional revenue to keep programs going. And then companies like BIC will hire them to put the pins together. There are other companies that hire them to put the batteries in the pack and squeeze them and get them out. So when you get your batteries, when you're shopping at stores, you can thank some of those individuals. I serve on Career Source, which is looking at either new skills or enhancing skills currently that individuals have in order to make them more viably employed and to assure that they are receiving a living wage. I'm a member of the Ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and so I'm the membership chair, and I get to plan certain events and work with our president and our first and second presidents to make sure that we're providing services in the community. So we do a lot of giving back and scholarships. I'm a member of the National Council of Negro Women. I serve on their board. And as a matter of fact, I'm chairing the Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship Breakfast on January 15, 2024. Shameless plug.
Oh, there you go.
So it's a number of boards and committees that I serve on. You certainly can visit the county website and see the entire list. But when I'm keeping myself busy, I'm staying out of trouble. So
you're going to school, you're on a lot of boards, and you are just on the go.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all about giving back. My parents did it. My grandmother and grandfather did it. Other persons in the community who helped raise me and provide a strong foundation. So it's just my turn, to give back. And hopefully, whenever I'm not here anymore, persons will be able to remember the affirming things that I did to try to help not just St. Petersburg, but the entire county.
Well, as I told you when you walked in, you're a mentor of mine. I sit next to you on the PSTA board, and I've learned so much from you, and
Thank you.
I appreciate everything you do for the community. I really do. So let's talk about politics.
Okay.
What type of work led you to consider entering the political arena?
Well, my mother was very involved in politics. My father served in the military of the United States Army. And so, of course, some African-American men, when they came home from serving, they weren't treated the best. And so my family just has always been involved in trying to look at the conditions of African-Americans and make sure that those conditions are improved from the things that they've gone through. And then the bug that really bit me was Frank White was an attorney. He fought right alongside of Attorney Fred G. Menace and others in the community. But being a relative of mine, he wanted to run for judge. And we're talking early 70s at the time. So it was still a lot of tension in the air. But, back then the campaign was simply some pastel colors of construction paper, running them off on a copier. And we were free labor, so we just went door to door, putting those flyers indoors, asking for individuals to vote for him. And he had a very astute reputation. He was very commanding in the room, almost 7 foot tall, and had a deep voice like Barry White. And, just very easygoing, very patient, but certainly believed in the letter of the law and fairness. He won, and so he continued to serve until he retired when he was 72. And, just being involved in that was like, okay, this is good. This is cool. So I ran for student council at Westgate Elementary, and I won. I ran for student council at Azalea Middle School. I was the first African-American president of student council at Azalea Middle School. And then I ran for student council when in high school. So I've just always been involved in things where it can potentially make a difference or make a change. And I got bit by the bug and never lost it.
That's great.
So I've remained engaged, and I enjoy it. I love it. There are good days and bad days, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
There are some days when you ask yourself, why am I doing this? But then maybe 5 minutes later, someone calls you and thanks you for whatever it is that you did to
I know.
help them. And it re-energizes you. So.
It does. Yeah, it's true. That's very true. So what years did you serve on the city council, St. Petersburg?
I ran for election. The election actually was 1998 to 99. I took office April 1st on April Fool's Day, and I served for 2 4-year terms on the St. Petersburg City Council. It was a very good experience and a learning experience working alongside of B. Griswold and Bill Foster, Kathleen Ford, Reverend Frank Peterman, who went on to the House of Representatives, Mr. Kirstein, and so many others, working with Mayor Dave Fisher at the time, and then later Mayor Rick Baker. So it was a true learning experience, a true introduction to city government.
8 years.
8 years.
Fantastic. So then, during your term, you and I have talked about this, you were elected as president of the Florida League of Cities. What year was that?
Yes. So, of course, your second VP, you run for second VP,
Right.
then first VP, and then you become president. And I was president in 2007. And it just was phenomenal. I mean, I enjoyed being a part of the league. And you know that when you go there, just the energy and the support, and you can have those conversations with persons from other cities because you can't talk to your colleagues about things for fear of violating the sunshine. And so I established some strong relationships from Panama, Okaloosa Island, which is far up on the the west coast, all the way down to South Florida, and then going over to Jacksonville, Gainesville, small towns like Green Acres, large communities like Broward. So the experience was phenomenal. I met so many friends, and when I go back every year when they have the luncheon for returning presidents, it's so many people that I see. I get to meet new people, and I just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the Florida League of Cities is meeting all the elected officials from around the state and learning about their situations, what's going on in their little cities.
And believe it or not, they love Pinellas. We've been on the cutting edge for a number of years, our cities here, and there are 411 cities throughout the state of Florida. And they really look at what we're doing here locally. So I know as mayor, you probably get some of those questions too.
Yes, absolutely. And then I really enjoy going to the mayor's, the actual president's luncheon at the conference. And I always see you up there smiling. Yes. And this year you were smiling again.
Yes. Some of us have gone on. We've lost quite a few. But just to see the 78 plus years of leadership. Mike Siddick's father started the Florida League of Cities, and I don't think he quite knew it was going to expand to something that it is right now, but he started it because he realized there needed to be a singular voice when going to Tallahassee and working for things for cities. And I think it was a phenomenal idea, and it's evident by the fact that it is still in operation. I'm
very involved in the FLC. I absolutely adore it. I work at it every day. All right, let's move on to, after serving on the St. Petersburg City Council, you were elected to the Pinellas County School Board. And I remember you being here one day at the meeting. During that time, you served as board chair for 2 consecutive terms. What type of issues or improvements did you experience while serving on that school board?
I think the main one was looking at the achievement gap and being able to work on closing that gap between African American scholars and scholars of other races in the areas of reading and math. There were some concerns, and of course everyone knows about the article that came out in the Tampa Bay Times, and I don't like to say failure factories, because when you put that word into the life and breath of someone, that becomes what they live. So were there challenges? Certainly. Were there failures? No, because everything, in my opinion, is a learning experience. So helping to close that achievement gap. And now, even before I left, we had a 93% graduation rate, which was even above the state rate. And currently, the graduation rate continues to soar. Do we still have some students who need extra attention? Most certainly. But overall, I think we have a really good leader in Superintendent Kevin Hendricks. I think that Dr. Grego left him with a very strong foundation of leadership in this county. The other thing is just the schools that needed to be rebuilt. You had Melrose Elementary that had not been touched since it was built in the 1960s. And it would flood there. Schools, the rooms were extremely small, cafeteria even smaller. And so being able to completely rebuild that and bring in the technology and whatnot so that those students could have some of the opportunities that students at other schools have. And then I would say my third one was engaging in recruitment. Children need to see people in leadership roles in the community that look like them across all spectrums. And so there was a program, a teacher recruitment program from Clemson University called the Call Me Mr. program. And it focused on recruiting African-American males into the public school system to serve as teachers. And so we adopted that model, started getting out really early for recruitment. Recruitment needs to occur year round because everybody's trying to get teachers, as you can tell. And so those are my top 3. There are so many other things that we did, but those are my top 3 that I can walk around visually, see the fruits of that labor, and applaud the fact that the district is continuing in those veins.
Well, I was only on the county commissioner as a commissioner here in Oldsmar for a couple of years when I went to that meeting here in Oldsmar. And I remember you as the chair, and you controlled that meeting. And believe it or not, I learned a lot. And I was so glad I was on my bike and I forgot about it. And I hurried up and came over to City Hall here. And you did a great job. I'll never forget you at that meeting. And thank you for all you did for that. So now we're going to jump over to county commissioner.
Oh, wow.
What year were you elected?
I was elected in 2020. Of course, the election was in 2019, but then 2020 was when I took my oath of office in the old courthouse. No one can fill the shoes of now Mayor, but then Commissioner Ken Welch. He served for 20 years and did an absolutely awesome, fabulous job about making sure that the county of course, took care of unincorporated parts of the county because that's who they represent and that's who they serve, but also stressing that those relationships with municipal governments is very important if we want to work together, and we would be missing out on so many opportunities for other things if we did not coalesce with other cities. And so it's been a learning experience. I enjoy it. It's just like working with a city 3 to 5 times the level. You look at a $3.2 billion budget, and in the city, I think we were around $654 million. So the budget is different, the many different departments, certainly having the responsibility for our coastal high hazard highways. And we all know what happened when the hurricane was 70 miles offshore and the damage it did. Could you imagine the damage it would have done if it had been right over us? And so our responsibility along the shoreline, and then working with larger corporations to relocate throughout our county. Oldsmar has a lot going on, you guys. I mean, Oldsmar is nothing like how it used to be. You know, you guys, you've done a wonderful job growing it, working with the chamber, bringing in new businesses. You have a hotel here, and just everything that's going on in the county to really provide our residents with opportunities for employment, opportunities for education, opportunities for leisure, vacation time. So fabulous.
Well, I remember just getting on the PSTA board, and I sat next to Mayor Welch, and I was like, "Wow, who is this guy? You know, he really knows his stuff." So working with him, you must absolutely, it's a treasure.
Yeah, and even now, I mean, when he won his race, we had a meeting, and at that time, it was him, Lisa Willa Bowman, and myself. And we met and just talked about some things that we could work on together. I'm sorry, that we could work on together. And, you know, it was really good because out of that comes, you know, someone's always saying, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm school board. I'm city council. No, what can we work on together? Because we are all touching the same residents.
Yes, we are. Yeah, absolutely. So then you got the seat, you're in there. Are there, the question that I'm asking, are there any term limits for the county commission at this time? I don't think there are there?
Currently, there are not. We are charter county. And so currently there are not term limits. And so if the next question would be how I feel about term limits, I believe that the community will provide you with term limits. If, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
If the community feels or the voters feel like it's time for someone new, we have seen it before. They vote people out.
Yes, yeah.
And so currently there aren't any term limits. I know there's some dialogue about potential legislation in Tallahassee. Of course, I've been a part of those discussions with the Florida Association of Counties. But currently there are no term limits.
Okay. So you also serve on specific boards for Pinellas County. Can you share what a few of those are, and take your time?
I serve on PSTA with you.
There's one.
Sun Coast Transit Authority. We were just voted #1 in the nation.
I know. Great.
And we have done some really fabulous things. Of course, we have been restricted by finances like so many other entities. But I believe the service that we've been able to provide in helping low-income families, being able to afford bus passes so that they can get to work, partnering with the hoteliers, with them purchasing bus passes, not just for the visitors in their hotels, but for their employees to be able to get to work. Of course, the Sunrunner, which now is just phenomenal and has been recognized as one of the top transportation models that we possibly could have here. And then with the Looper, providing that service, it goes through communities and an attempt to try to expand those services. I also serve. I also served on T-BARTA. Unfortunately, we sunset that a month or so ago. T-BARTA was very interesting. Its responsibility was to serve the region and to look at additional transportation models like gondolas and light rail and BRT, which is bike rails and trails. But they weren't provided within the financial remuneration from the state. And so the organization was really dependent upon grants and then the support it got from the county and some of the larger cities. And so I no longer serve on that board. Of course, I serve on Career Source, and then Career Source has several individual boards. I'm the vice chair of the Career Source board, and then there's the auditing committee, nominating committee. I serve as secretary. Well, I will be inducted as incoming secretary treasurer for the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. So I serve on that board, but I will become their secretary treasurer in December. And so that's been really interesting because, again, that's looking at a regional approach. And, of course, a lot of us have been talking about that. How can we all work together? Again, because pulling together gets you a lot farther than having these operative silo conversations that kind of stall you out. So I'm going to stop there because there are a number of other boards that I serve on in representing the county commission.
I served on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council when I first was elected. That's very interesting.
It is.
I mean, all the different elected officials from all over the county.
All over.
Pasco, everywhere. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay. You have received many awards and honors for your services to the community. Why don't you just tell us about one or two?
Oh, Lord. I have received an award from the St. Petersburg Housing Authority for my work in supporting affordable housing. I grew up in what was termed the projects. So being able to own my own home, I purchased my home in 1993. All of my sisters and brothers saved to own our own homes because that was something that was really stressed by our parents. And so now it's even more difficult because rent is through the roof. Purchasing a home, those costs are through the roof, and that has always been my passion. So receiving that award meant a lot in working with them. Another award that I received was based on the political service that I'm providing in the community across the aisle. Just understanding and trying to assure that residents who may not typically attend a city council meeting or a county commission meeting or a school board meeting, that they are able to still get the information, get it timely, and provide their input. And so receiving that award really was, for me, phenomenal. Because it spoke to not only was I providing the information, but somebody's listening. And someone is now involved in a process that perhaps they may not have been involved in. I still get calls about the school board. I still get calls about city council.
I bet.
The first thing I do is say, have you reached out to the person who serves in that seat? And then reach out to them. And if you can't, because I want to be mindful and respectful. But I have a lot of accolades, but those are kind of near and dear to me. All
right. So now county commissioner. You've got a lot of stuff going on. Let's talk about one of your favorite projects that you're working on right now.
It would have to be housing. It would have to be housing. The voters voted in the penny for Pinellas. That's that extra 1 penny that is paid when you're purchasing anything. And those funds go into a pot. 41% of those dollars are utilized towards partnering with developers and contractors to build affordable workforce housing. Now the new term is attainable. Call it what you want. It's making sure that people who are 60, 80, and 120% AMI, that they can afford to continue to live in our communities. And we're talking about school teachers. We're talking about firefighters. We're talking about EMTs. We're talking about police officers.
Absolutely.
We're talking about some of your staff who work here every day. And so partnering with Blue Sky Communities, Habitat for Humanity, partnering with One Community. And these are all the names of some of the organizations who have come on board and said, we're willing to do this. We need some help. And we're able to, based on the square footage of each unit, the size of the project, a number of dynamics, we're able to provide them with some funding to help buy down the costs so that their project can be completely affordable, or a number of units within the scope of the project are affordable. And we've, since I've been on, it's been over 1,400 units. And so those are 1,400 plus families that now have a place to live. And we're continuing. We're moving on. We're not stopping there, as I'm sure you and other mayors are doing throughout your cities.
Absolutely. Yeah, working on it every day. So I can't believe this. I guess you're a great-grandmother. How big is your family?
It's a lot of us. As a matter of fact, I am now I have great nieces. My niece, Nia, my sister Lenore's daughter, just gave birth to twin girls.
Oh, boy.
And when I stopped at a red light on the way here, I was looking at their pictures. Mackenzie is one and Anaya is the other. One was 5 pounds. The other was 5 pounds, 1 ounce. So they were some big twins. But I have a large family, and I love it because for birthdays, I don't have to invite anybody else. Just invite family. For Thanksgiving, I love to cook. My grandmother was one of those old-fashioned cooks. She never measured anything. So having all of those family members over to my house for the holidays, carrying on the rich tradition that my mother and grandmother did. They are both now deceased, but just carrying on that tradition, it just makes my heart feel good. I enjoy cooking. I put love in the food when I'm cooking, and everybody eats it. We enjoy each other's company. We get to see each other, not just for funerals or bad times, but for happy times. And then everybody get to bring the new family members on, and so we get to just spend time with each other for that, and as well as Christmas. So I have one great-grandchild, and her name is Naya, and she just celebrated a birthday on Saturday. And so, I'm still 21, and I'm sticking to that story.
There you go.
In case anyone's asking, even I already told you my age.
Well, I think my favorite thing about this podcast is we started out talking about your family moving here in the 30s, and now we're ending it with food and family and friendship and great-granddaughter.
Yes, she's a
great-granddaughter, and your stories about your grandmother cooking. Thank you for sharing all that with us. Yeah. I mean, I really learned a lot today. I think you're very special. I'm honored to serve with you on the PSTA, and I'm very proud that you're my friend. Thank you so much.
I'm proud of you as well. You have done a phenomenal job. You always say, team. You're always including your staff. And when you invited me to come to the Veterans Memorial Park to celebrate and honor veterans, and I was able to bring my brother, he's still talking about that. So, you are to be applauded and celebrated because you are doing a phenomenal job as mayor of Oldsmar. And I enjoy it when I come through here. Just seeing all of the wonderful work that has occurred under previous mayor's leadership, but under your leadership, we have become friends, and I honor and cherish that friendship as well.
Thank you so much for that, Renee. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we close out?
Before we close out, I just want to say to all of the residents that reside in Oldsmar and Pinellas County, thank you. Sometimes you do a lot behind the scenes, and no one gives you recognition for it. No one pats you on the back or writes an article, but you do it because you are making sure that people in your community have what they need. And so without the residents of this entire county, you and I would not be where we are because they support us and they correct us when we need to be corrected.
Absolutely.
But they support us. And so I want to give a huge thank you to all of them. For allowing us to be of service to them.
I'll second it.
And for entrusting us with their lives, their quality of life, because that's what they're doing. Exactly. They're entrusting us with that. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I second that. Thank you. Thank you, Renee, for being my guest today. To find a list of podcast segments, visit experienceoldsmar.com. I'm your host, Oldsmar Mayor Dan Saracki. Until next time, I invite you to check out all the great things to do in the city of Oldsmar. Santa Claus is coming to town pretty soon.
Yes.
And
I love Christmas.
All right. And get out and have fun. It's a beautiful day in Oldsmar. It's a full moon. Have a great day. Thank you for joining, Renee.
Thank you.